Hello guys, on this video we want to talk specifically on stunt growth, deformation of bones. So this effect in your beds doesn't just start with me or with you as a poultry farmer. It starts from the archery. As we all know, blooding, we all know as if maybe blooding just starts with us as poultry farmers. No, blooding actually starts from the archery. Because at the archery, in the incubator, they need to manage the temperature. So we have these, I can just say, two effects: stunt growth and paralysis, which is also, we can say, deformation of bones. So what usually happens is this: stunt growth, paralysis, they all start first from the archery, when the management of temperature is not good. So let me start with paralysis and deformation of bones. What usually happens at the archery is that when they are managing their temperature, when there is mismanagement of temperature in the incubator, it leads to the point whereby it destroys the collagen of the bed. So when the collagen is destroyed, the whole chicken formation of bones becomes a problem. It won't really, when it grows up, the bed won't really have enough strength from the bones to control the growth of that bed. So most of the time, eventually, is when you pick up those beds when they're still small, because the weight is not too much, so you won't see that problem when you just collect those beds. So the problem starts happening sometimes in the first week, next week. Sometimes this just comes when the beds are fully grown, like these which are here. It started when they were fully grown. When they were small, no problem. Then when it started growing, which means now the bones were not able to support the weight of that bed, because the collagen was destroyed at the incubator when there was mismanagement of temperature. And at some point, you find like there are some eggs. It's not all the eggs that will have a thick outer part. Some they'll have a softer one. Okay, that's why there's also sometimes they measure those eggs, they see the weight, how it is. But at some point, it's not every time you can be 100% sure of what you're putting in, like it's 100%. There's also a certain percentage that you are not accurate at. So you find like those eggs, when they put them in the incubator, those which are at a normal, which are having a normal shell outside, and those which are not having a normal shell outside, of course there won't be a lot, it won't be a number. So which means when they put the temperature, which is the temperature required for those eggs to be in there, that other one with a shell which is not really strong, eventually the heat will be too much, which will be getting into the egg. Then it will go and destroy the collagen. But for that one which is strong enough, it will have enough temperature to support the collagen for the bed to develop very well. So you find like maybe you have 2 or 3 beds which are having that problem. Some you find like there are too many, and especially in hot season. In hot season, you find like beds, these layers that lays, these parent chicks, sometimes they produce eggs which are not strong enough. So you find like in hot season, there's this experience. When hot season passes by, those eggs are hatched. You'll find like there's this problem like continuously compared to other seasons. So it's not your fault as a poultry farmer. It's not your fault at all. It's the same thing with also stunt growth. You find maybe there are 2 or 3 eggs. Also stunt growth always happens most of the time when it's hot season, because it's not easy to control temperature at the hatchery. It's not easy even for us poultry farmers. So you find like the temperature is high, then when those beds are being produced there you find like there's a lot of heat, and heat, takes away the nutrients and the proteins that are needed for the bed. So you find like they've taken away all the nutrients on most of the beds, especially those that I've mentioned that they don't have a thick, good enough outer surface. So you find like this is now how you will notice, like when you get the beds, they're all fine, they're all good. Then when they start growing, you see like others are not growing very well according to the other beds. So the main point is the other beds, which are especially these which are stunt, they've lost some nutrients and proteins due to the overheating of the incubator. There was mismanagement. Then they will start growing very well. Some they're not growing, some they're not. So mostly I can say the major problem starts from the hatchery, not you as a poultry farmer. So if you don't know this, of course you'll be frustrated, like maybe I'm mismanaging my beds, I'm not managing them well, maybe my business is, I'm not just good with this business. No, sometimes it's not your fault. It starts from the hatchery. Okay, so how does it become your fault when your beds have just come without any problem? So as a poultry farmer, we will also talk about brooding, and brooding will only cover up for stunt growth. So mostly what usually happens is that some poultry farmers are not really aware how the temperature management affects the beds. So you have to know when there's overheat in your poultry room, your beds will lose vitamins, proteins that will need to support the growth of that bed to grow very fast. So when there's overheat, your beds will have heat stress. We already know that. Instead of using that heat, instead of the normal heat to use for the beds to digest the food very well, they'll have overheat now. Then you find sometimes there are some symptoms whereby when you check your poo of the beds, you find like when they are pooping, you find like there's like direct feed. Why? There was overheat. Then in the stomach again there was overheat. Now this body needs to just release so that that heat can be reduced. So make sure brooding, you do it very well to avoid all this. You find like your beds, especially those who were brooding beds in hot season. That's why I made a video for how you brood your beds, the strategies to use to brood your chickens in hot season. It's for this same reason, because you'll start having stunt growth. Beds won't grow very fast as compared to the other weathers. So you need to make sure you control. Watch that video so that you are sure, oh, okay, when maintaining my temperature in the room, I need to do this and do that. Okay. Then, as I've mentioned for paralysis, the collagen is already broken. So it's not your fault. You find it only shows up when the beds are really grown. Sometimes when they are small, it's because maybe it was really broken. So the whole part of the body is really not in a good formation. So paralysis will happen maybe when they are grown, like the ones I've shown you. It happened when they are grown, which means there was quite enough time for them to hold on to that weight they were having until to the time they can't hold on to that weight. So stunt growth is not your fault. Stunt growth and paralysis starts first from the hatchery. Then it becomes your fault only if you don't manage your temperature in the brooder very well. So make sure, one, especially those who are taking beds from unknown suppliers, unknown dealers who are supplying beds to you, you don't know how they were managing their incubators. But with these good suppliers, of course, we've worked with them, and the beds are just growing very well, which means we are sure these people can manage their temperature in their incubators very well. But with these new suppliers, of course, we are not trying to destroy other people's businesses, but there is some who are not managing their temperature in the incubators. So you need to be careful when picking up your beds. Then with stunt growth, even if you give the beds the food that it needs, it already lost some important nutrients it needed for it to grow. So make sure you say like, no, but they are growing together, but this one is not growing. Of course, yes, because it lost way back due to these reasons that I've given you. So guys, don't be stressed over maybe your beds 2 or 3 are not growing, the other ones are paralyzed. Then you start, sometimes, you know, this is when it comes to the point whereby when you give your beds even vitamin E, you find like they are not, still not getting back to normal. Why? Those bones were already destroyed at the hatchery, in the incubator. They were already destroyed. The collagen was destroyed. So you can't control that. You find like, no, I've tried to give them vitamin E, I was advised this. At some point, don't get frustrated. Just know like, okay, this problem is not mine. It came from the hatchery. It is very, very possible that it came from the hatchery. It doesn't start with you, especially when they're small. It's not you. Even when they're grown, it's not you. There was a mismanagement at the hatchery. And it's not all the time that this happens. It's only a few times. So don't be stressed and don't be worried like, oh, get the beds maybe which were not mismanaged. If you get from unknown suppliers, yes, the risk is very high. So make sure you take from those people, you know, like these, they are trusted. These produce good day-old chicks. Make sure you do that, and make sure you follow the strategy of giving you. Then you don't have to stress out. If you've understood, you know, like I don't have to panic at some problems that I face, especially with stunt growth and paralysis. I can't control it because it was already destroyed. So make sure, guys, if you haven't understood, watch over and over and over of this video so that you are able to understand, so that you don't become stressed when dealing your business. So sometimes you find like there are many beds which are having the problem that I'm talking about. You can contact your dealer and tell them, these beds I'm having a problem, and this is a problem, so. And if those dealers are really, really good dealers, they'll say like, okay, pick up the beds and bring them, we need to take a look at them. At some point when you go and buy again, they'll say like, those beds which you brought back, we've given you these beds. That's what I mean. I love going to the headquarters because at the headquarters I'm able to take back the problem and tell, oh, this is what I faced. Then they'll be able to replace my beds. Like, okay, we'll give you these other beds. Next time when you order, we'll give you extra beds of this number. Then they give me, which is not a problem. So thank you guys, and make sure you watch over and over again, and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any content, because these contents are very important to your poultry business, for you to survive, for you not to starve, for you not to get stressed in business. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure you subscribe.